Hi, I'm Lisa Shield.
And I'm Benjamin Shield.
And this is Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. We are very excited. I created, first of all, this podcast because I happen to think that my husband has the most beautiful male mind I have ever encountered. And so I love exploring as many different topics as I can with him and sharing them with you because I think his insights are invaluable. And women don't often get to hear from really healthy, compassionate, loving, masculine men like you. And so it's great to hear how a real man thinks. Today, we're going to be talking about conflict and is it inevitable in relationships? This is actually one of my favorite topics because it makes me really mad. And when I get mad, I know that it's a really juicy topic.
Right.
I have to say that I have never heard a single other expert say that not all relationships have conflict. Yeah. I'll be listening to NPR and they'll be interviewing a relationship expert and they'll say, all relationships have conflict. And I'm thinking, no, they don't. They don't have to. Who says so?
Yeah, and conflict doesn't mean that there's not a difference of opinion.
No.
Or a difference of likes. And it's really about embracing the other person and seeing how important it is to push against it. But in the 23 years we've been together, we're different people. We have different opinions, but the two opinions are synergistic.
Yeah.
They add to each other. They don't detract.
And we're actually so fascinated by the way each other's minds think that we enjoy having differences of opinions because it's interesting and we don't feel threatened by the fact that we don't have to agree on everything.
Also, after so many years, I know what you're smart at and I know my weaknesses, your strength. So if we have a difference of opinion of something, I'll say, wow, she's probably right.
Give me those Delta tickets and let me handle it.
Right.
I think I can do that.
Right. Give me the taxi or whatever it is.
Yeah. When I say I can handle something, I usually can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just will defer to me when you know that, she's probably going to do better with this than I will.
Yeah, it's when two people, when one and one plus one is greater than two. And so we can use conflict in a positive way. We can say that, yes, it's synergistic. We're deferring to each other. We're embracing each other. And if anything ever comes up that just stops us in our tracks, the first thing we usually do is just first take a breath and then embrace the entire relationship, because it's so easy to focus on a single sentence or a single word. And then we have all these years of love and support and encouragement for each other, that it's being able to see the entire relationship. And then it's about, what are we going to say next? Are there words that are going to bring us together, or are they going to be a weapon that takes us apart? And for me and for you, we've always chosen words to bring us together.
Yeah. And for me, I respect you so much that I wouldn't want to bring my lesser self to the relationship. Right. So if I were to argue with you or fight with you or be petty about something, or even put my needs in front of yours, I would feel like I would be diminishing myself, lowering myself in your eyes. And that would be the worst feeling I could possibly have.
Yeah. And conflict means, to me, a separation. And so when two people have active conflict where there's animosity, there's division, there's separation, and that would break my heart.
Honey, can you define what conflict means to you and how you would define it in the context of a relationship?
I think it's easier for me to describe what conflict isn't, because early on, when we were dating all those years ago, I think we were both looking for the same thing. We were looking for what we now call the guardians of each other's souls, and to really see each other's soul and support that soul and that soul's journey. And when we do that, we're able to make a container so large that it can contain differences of opinion. It can contain like little moments and say, oh, and then it just disappears. I think if we've ever had conflict, we can't remember it because it just disappears. We don't hold on to it. We never go back and say, 2 years ago, you said this, or you did this, or I was disappointed with this. It just goes because we see each other's souls.
Well, and I also think we don't want to hurt each other.
Yeah.
I think if I were to ever argue or fight with you or get jealous or whatever, that would hurt you so badly because I know in your heart of hearts, all you want to do is make me happy.
Yeah, that's true.
So it would hurt you so much to think that I didn't see you or value everything that you do and bring to the relationship. Yeah. I want to just say, I think that conflict is about resistance. The only way you can have conflict is when you have resistance. And when two people are not resistant to each other, when they're open and welcoming of each other's perspectives and opinions, and when there's so much safety and trust in a relationship, and you both know with 100% certainty that all you want is for each other's highest good, then there's no resistance. There's nothing to fight about. Yeah. There is no room for conflict. Why do you think most people assume that conflict is inevitable in relationships?
I think because everyone else assumes that it's just part of the culture. It's just part of the world view.
And there's so few good examples of relationships where there isn't conflict.
That's true. And we grew up in households where there was a lot of conflict.
Yes.
And I think we learned from that, we learned what we don't want. And I think some people learn that's what relationships are, so that's what they're going to replicate. And we went the other direction. We said, there's no reason to be in a relationship if it's about animosity, if it's about being small, it's about judgment.
Or withholding. That's another one. Stonewalling.
Terrible.
Withholding.
Terrible.
That's another form of conflict, which is really painful. From your perspective, what makes our relationship free of conflict? And you may have already touched on that.
I think that really seeing each other and seeing the goodness and knowing that the last thing we would want to do is to hurt each other, and that really taking a moment and taking a breath and saying, oh yeah, she's probably right. I think conflict for me, if anything arises, it's when something very truthful is said, and the conflict is within me,
right?
Not the relationship. Sweetheart, do you think it would be better if you did that? What? Oh, yeah, she's right.
Another way, you know how I often avoid any kind of conflict in the relationship? And this is a good one. Whenever I say something, and I'm sure you've noticed this, and you may have some sort of reaction to it, I completely just let it go, and I just let go, and then I'll give it a couple of beats, and then I'll come back and I'll say, babe, I think you may have misunderstood, or let me explain what I was trying to say. But I completely give you a moment just to let the dust set, to let that thought go by, and then I take a breath and say, how can I say this differently?
And I think that we're both aware that words are important. And once they're out there, you can't reach out and grab them back. So I think we're very mindful of our languaging.
Yeah. What would you say to men who do feel threatened or defensive when their partner has a different viewpoint?
I think really the steps that I gave was first, just remind yourself to take a breath, because that is the beginning of a reset. And as much as one can is just not focus on the moment or the word or that momentary action and reaction, but try to focus on the entire relationship. all the love, the caring, the support, the encouragement, the non-judgment, all of those things. And then being very careful about the words that are said next. Are they going to bring two people together or two people apart? And why would we want to have languaging that brings two people apart? It would just not only continue the conflict, but expand it.
Yeah. What do they do when their partner is upset? How would they navigate that?
There's the expression, it just takes one person to change a relationship. And so the question again was...
Let's say I was upset. I was getting upset and you weren't, but I was becoming very upset and saying irrational and saying, you don't understand me, you're not hearing me. And you feel very much that you are understanding and hearing me. What would you say to a man in that position?
I'll say, what's on television? Or, are you hungry?
That might not go over too well with a lot of women, babe.
But mostly I would just give you space, hypothetically, because you just don't act that way.
But I know what you would probably do.
And what's that?
You would say, you know what, I think I'll come back in a little while when you've had a moment to think things through, and then we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
That's what I would probably see you doing. You just wouldn't engage.
Yeah, and not engaging not only doesn't perpetuate the whatever's going on at that moment, but it also models for the other person that, wow, I don't have to be upset. They're not upset.
Yeah. And you would come back and talk about it, but you would just say, let's just take a little bit of a break here and come back. And when we're a little more clear-headed, you would do it in a very loving way. How do you navigate your own boundaries while still being considerate of mine?
I think, again, it takes two people, and you're very respectful of my boundaries. I think you're very aware. And I've tried to express, over all these years, express my boundaries in a kind way. So it's not like, if you don't respect the boundaries, I'm going to get upset. It's when you do respect my boundaries, I'm so appreciative verbally.
Well, even more, you express your boundaries in a non-shaming way.
Yeah.
You never shame me. Yeah. And that's a gift. Yeah. That's really a gift. What advice would you give to men who struggle to communicate their boundaries in a constructive way?
Again, thinking about the words, are they going to be bringing two people closer together, which they can, or are they going to be a weapon that split two people apart? So thinking about the language is really important, and thinking about kindness.
Yeah. I'm just telling you, ladies, look for a kind man, not a nice man, but a kind man. It'll go a long way in a relationship to be with a man who has deep kindness.
Yeah. And just playing on something that you said, a nice man often doesn't have boundaries. But deep down, he does.
And he carries resentments.
Yeah, he just is just a nice people pleaser. But so when kindness comes from choice. Kindness comes from strength.
Honey, you're going to this one. What does making the container bigger mean to you? And how do you apply that in our relationship?
It means that everyone has idiosyncrasies. Everyone has a way of looking at the world, of doing things that two people can't be alike. If we make the container small enough that all these behaviors or words or actions that fall outside the container as abnormal, they're irritating. Mm-hmm. But if we just say, oh, yeah, like for me, you make the container big enough because at the end of the day, sometimes I just need to be at the kitchen sink, staring out the window and eating grapes or something like that. You take a step in the kitchen and you do a 180. You create that container for me, that I feel safe, that I could feel what I'm feeling. I don't have to explain myself. And I try to do the same for you.
And I almost never ask you to explain yourself.
Yeah.
I pretty much know your moods, and I also know that you will share the things that you feel are necessary to share with me.
Yeah.
But I do respect your space and your right just to go through your own emotions and not take them personally.
Yeah.
That was one of the gifts I wanted to give you in our relationship, because I know a lot of women are hypersensitive.
Oh, that's huge. I tell people that when they ask what the secret of our relationship is, one of the first things I say is that Lisa doesn't take things personally, because I've been in relationships where it's like a little crack of the diamond, and that crack just begins to expand and expand. And so what started as something small over 3 days of not talking or animosity.
Yeah.
So the fact that you don't take things personally, things just disappear. We don't even remember things.
No. We don't remember anything these days. What's your thought process when I want to discuss something that you're not in the mood to talk about?
Just say that, can we talk about this later? That's like, I grew up in a household where there's a lot of chaos at mealtime. So much so that for years I ate in my bedroom because I just couldn't take the chaos and the bickering that over meals. So it made me hypersensitive. So talking about politics or the downside of AI or all of these things that I just can't handle during mealtime. So I'll just say, can we talk about this later?
Yes. Yeah. How do you think other couples can cultivate a mindset of seeking the highest good for their relationship so that they can learn not have conflict? Because I think that's one of the things that we do. We tend to default to what's best for the relationship and what's best for our partner. And if what you need is greater than what I need in that moment, then I will always defer to you. Yeah. And I think you can tell when something is deeply important to me and you'll defer to me.
Yeah.
How do couples do that?
First, it's a choice. That's the top of the list. It's a choice. And sometimes one person could change two people. It's not, I'm going to be magnanimous, but she's not, and so why should I be? And then it just perpetuates. But if one person is magnanimous or really takes the other person into consideration, deep consideration, then it models the other person. There's a trust and safety that gets developed, that both people could really be givers and not feel like they're giving themselves up.
And it has to be reciprocal.
Yeah.
So if you shift things on your end and you are being magnanimous and you are putting the highest good of the relationship above all else, and that's not being reciprocated, then there may be a need to look at the relationship itself and ask, is this a relationship I feel that I can grow in?
Yeah, I think so many people deep down feel that their relationships aren't nourishing, but they're toxic. And there's resentment that builds up. And it's tragic, because why do two people get together? It's not to work things out necessarily, but it's really to see how much I can love unconditionally.
Yeah, and that's one thing we didn't mention, is just how therapy tends to perpetuate this model of two people coming together who are damaged and broken and working out their wounds, to healing their wounds together. And while that can be the nature of some relationships, it doesn't have to be. Yeah. And I think it's when I realized in the end that I needed to take responsibility for myself, that nobody could heal me but me. I had to look at those things. I had to stop thinking my partner or anyone else could do that for me. And when I took responsibility for that, I saw that not only did I not want to put that on someone else, nobody else could do it for me, and I didn't want to take responsibility for someone else. And that was liberating, liberating. If you could give one piece of advice to men about maintaining harmony in their relationships, what would it be?
It's about the reason, really going back to the reason they got into the relationship, which was about love. It wasn't about pain. No one gets into a relationship, or at least they shouldn't, when the foundation is about pain. So really thinking about, why did we start this? And where do we want to end up? So many relationships start with love, or what they feel is love, sometimes just chemistry. And it ends up in pain. And the person we thought we loved the most becomes the biggest enemy.
Yeah.
And if there's kids or other situations where they can't leave, it's hell. And it's really, how do you want to live your life? Do you want to create heaven, or do you want to create hell?
Absolutely. And I think it's also goes back to the saying that we can learn through joy or we can learn through pain. And we have a choice. We have a choice. Do we want to learn through pain or joy? And I think you and I both made the decision that we want to learn through joy.
Yeah.
And I actually said that to you on our first date. I said, I'm done suffering.
Yeah.
I'm done working hard and making my life hard. I just want to meet a great guy and have fun. Yeah. And that statement was born out of the idea that I had a choice in how I grew and the kind of relationship I was in.
And when you said that, I just subconsciously put my hands together and said, thank you, God.
I'll take her.
And we've been together ever since.
And I lived up to my promise.
Yeah.
That's the good thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you, babe.
It's my pleasure.
I appreciate it. I'm Lisa Shield.
And I'm Benjamin Shield.
And this has been Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. If you enjoyed this, please join us. You can go to lisashield.com and you will find all of our recorded podcasts and broadcasts there. And we do these just about every Sunday. We put out a new episode of Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. And I also put out episodes called Finding the Guardian of Your Soul. So you can check that out as well. And the last thing is, all over my website, there's a button to click. It will take you to a short presentation. If you watch that presentation and want to book a call with a member of my team to talk about working with us and finding the guardian of your soul, then please sign up for a call.
And your website is lisashield.com.
Yes, it is. Thank you for that. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. And please tell everyone you know, your brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, your girlfriends, your guy friends, your colleagues, whoever you can think of about this podcast, because we are talking about things in a way that few people do, and more people should. So thank you again, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.